Welcome, Gemini, to your mid-February reading. This is for all Gemini from February 15th to 28th. Let's take a look at what the cards have to say for you the second half of the month, Gemini. Alright, so we'll start by going through cards piece by piece, and what will happen is we'll start to get an overall reading. The messages start to come together. Keep in mind that this is a general reading, and if something general about this hooks you, definitely reach out to me at mainspringtarot@gmail.com and we can set up a private reading. So at the heart of the situation, Gemini, we have the Ten of Cups crossed by the Nine of Swords. So as far as the Ten of Cups goes, we've got this happy family with a rainbow overhead. This is a rainbow full of water, which is that that happiness and that contentment. And so we've got a couple here together and some kids playing. So we've got this happiness, but it's crossed by the Nine of Swords, which is mental anguish. I mean, that's as clear as it can be. That's mental anguish. We got a person up in their bed at night, unable to sleep and process whatever that pain is. And what I'm getting is that because it's crossed with the Ten of Cups, it's not necessarily your pain. It's more like you are in mental anguish over someone else. But let's see what else is going on. So the basis of the situation, so the underlying, kind of like the underlying way of being in the world that brought you to where you're at, where we're at right now, we have the Eight of Swords. And the Eight of Swords is, on the surface, one of those cards that makes us gasp a little bit as well. But if you take a look, we've got this one and she's bound in the eyes and then around the body, but her feet are not bound and her legs are not actually bound. So it's almost like she's in this really oppressive situation under the authority of the city, but she's not actually trapped. She's free to walk away from it. So this card, in relation to your reading, it makes me think that what I'm getting with the heart of the situation plus the basis is that there's this suffering that's happened, that you're concerned about this loved one, but you don't necessarily have to be. Let's take a look at the other cards and see if we can get a clearer reading on that. So in your recent past, we have the Judgment. Judgment means we've got this sea full of people rising up out of their coffins, as the angel Gabriel here calls them. And what this really is it means that sometime in your recent past, there was some major intervention of the universe, some major calling toward yourself or toward a higher purpose, towards some major change in your life. So maybe it could very well be, Gemini, that you're up at night because you're afraid of leaving some situation. when in reality, whatever the situation is, the cards suggest that whatever you're walking away from, even though it may feel like this now, is for a higher purpose. Because for your potential outcome card, we have the Queen of Cups, and the Queen of Cups is one of my personal favorite cards in the deck, because the Queen is so, she gets it. She channels, she so skillfully channels her creative power and her emotions, so things from like that watery cups suit into whatever action she's doing in the real world. You see the Queen of Cups here. She's seated on her throne. She's got her feet in the water, and she's surrounded by all these images of the water element. But she's staring intently at this goblet that she's created. So she's really good at, this Queen of Cups is really good at channeling her creative force into the world. So as far as that being a possible outcome, it means that you're moving more toward that kind of a situation in your life, where you're unblocking something that's held you up, and you're moving toward more skillfully channeling your emotional and creative energy into whatever it is you do, whatever your occupation is. So in the near future, we've got the Eight of Cups, and the Eight of Cups shows the Eight of Cups here. We've got a gentleman that has turned his back on the Eight Cups here that are stacked up, and they aren't spilled, but he's heading for higher ground along a flowing river. And this is one of those cards that's got one of these cards is heavily nuanced as far as meaning, because he's walking away from a good situation. He's walking away from these 8 cups that are still standing. But it's almost like that scenario where he knows that he's walking away before the situation falls apart. And as we look at the cards that we discussed so far, what I'm getting is that your situation is very much like that, the man in the Eight of Cups, where you can't see why you would want to walk away or leave the situation you're currently in, because there is some very real happiness there. And maybe it's not even walking away, maybe it's just seeing the situation for what it is. It's like for so long it's been this happy thing, and you feel like there's this anguish because you feel like you might hurt someone. But the cards suggest that you know on a certain level that the situation is going to fall apart eventually. Not necessarily fall apart, but just that you're going to need more eventually, and that there's something in you that's seeking a higher purpose. Your self in the situation card here, or self in the environment. We have the Six of Wands, and Temperance. So Temperance is very much, your environment is very much in balance. And, the Six of Wands is very much like you've gone out into the world and done something, and you're coming home victorious. We've got a man that on a horse with a victory wreath. So he's either he won a victory and he's on his way home, and he's, this journey for you where you're heading for higher ground and you're heading for something else is going to be your victory. Or it just means that you're in a situation, Gemini, where you've been successful, you've achieved some victories, and because of that, things are balanced. And just like the cups that are balanced in the Eight of Cups, we've got Temperance, which echoes that. So it's like you've managed to create this happiness and create this balance in your life, but despite all of that, there's this there's this anguish crossing you, and it might have something to do with the next card, which is the King of Swords. King of Swords is in reverse in your hopes and fears position. So, given what we've gotten from the cards so far, this feels very much like it's a person in your life. And the King of Swords, doesn't have to necessarily be a male, but the King of Swords is very much... King of Swords very much runs things rationally, runs things intellectually, and this crossing here suggests that, like, that overly analytical clashing of where you get that intellect clashing with emotion. The two don't necessarily mix. So the fact that that's in the hopes and fears position makes me think that it's a person that, especially with the Nine of Swords, Gemini, that you're worried about rocking the boat on a situation that's been pretty well balanced for a long time. And you found this tremendous balance. But whatever it is that's that's in you that's making you feel like you can't go for this thing or do this thing or say this thing because you're afraid of some oppressive situation. I feel a strong connection between the King of Swords and the Eight of Swords. So Gemini, I feel like a very strong connection between, there we go, between that authority in the background here and that Eight of Swords, and then this King of Swords in reverse, like you're feeling like you're going to hurt someone if you go for whatever this thing is. Finally, outcome card. We have the Eight of Pentacles, which is just this. We've got this apprentice that is completely lost in, completely immersed in his work. You see he's on a working on a pentacle here in the bench. We've got the tattered clothing. The guy is completely immersed and doing the right thing. We've got the yellow road leading back to the city, so he's not doing it. He's doing it for the love of whatever this work is, and ultimately he's doing it to serve his community. So Gemini, like with the Queen of Cups and the Pentacles and the Eight of Cups, the overall message to me feels like you have found this balance in your life, and you've been good at it, you've been successful, but there's something else. You've got this calling. You've got this calling to go for something bigger, something scary, something that's going to rock the boat in your relationship, or maybe it's just your relationship with yourself. Maybe you have this competing intellect and heart within yourself, where like the heart wants one thing, while the analytical side of you doesn't want to go for it because it doesn't all pan out rationally. But overall, the cards say that this move, this change, is going to help your work. It's going to unlock some channel and make your work even more meaningful, and you're going to be, outcome-wise, it looks like you're approaching a period where you'll be really immersed in that. So that is your reading for the second half of February. Please shoot me an email. I'm doing readings for free, so shoot me an email and we'll schedule a time, and we'll set up a reading if there's anything in this reading that caught you. Otherwise, thanks for stopping in and watching the video, and we'll see you in March. Thanks.